Hiya folks, I'm Paranoid Rat, and welcome back for the weekly feeding of art. This video is a week later than usual because I took a break off for the holidays, but we are back. Season 2 of Arcane is finally out, and I am screaming. If you know me, you know I'm obsessed with Arcane. This has been my personality for the last 4 years. And in those 4 years, I have been anxiously and desperately waiting for a Season 2, and it's finally here. Which of course means I need to draw. The art of Arcane has always been a massive influence to me and definitely shaped a big portion of my style, but I was thinking that I wanted to actually do some proper art studies of this style. I don't do art studies very often, and I usually hate the process, but Arcane is special, and I'm making an exception here. If I'm inspired to draw Arcane studies, I'm gonna draw the Arcane studies. So for all the pieces I did, I found a shot from the movie I liked and was inspired by to redraw. And each one I chose had a very specific part I was studying and wanting to improve on personally. So the first one I did was this close-up of Andessa's mask that had my brain in a chokehold. Like, look at that crunchy metal rendering. I love rendering metal. Like, honestly, it's probably one of my favorite things to render and draw. And Arcane definitely influenced how I go about doing that. So I wanted to mostly just focus on the metal aspect of this one. I'm kind of wanting to try and do a sort of tutorial thing in the future, talking about how I go about rendering metal, because it can be very extremely difficult if you don't know what you're doing, which I did not know what I was doing for a long time, and I struggled immensely. But I was too lazy to do that this week, so you're just gonna get a speed paint and my ridiculous commentary. Drawing the mask itself was probably the hardest part, honestly. I gave up trying to freehand that thing pretty quickly and just use the symmetry tool. I don't know why I tried to freehand it, I'm stupid. Some of the shapes are a bit off, but again, I was mostly focusing on the rendering for this piece. I generally avoided color picking when I could because I was wanting to improve on my color matching skills and paying attention to where they are on the color wheel. But since it was a study, I let myself color pick sometimes to get a better understanding of the color choices used. Metal is so fun to render, in my opinion, because it's like a mix of like nicely blended colors and like sharp, harsh highlights and lines with texture, which is just all really appealing when put together. And Andessa is such a cool character in my opinion, and her design is just top fucking tier. I love my buff women, okay? Just leave me alone. And this mask fits her character and design so well, while also being so visually appealing on its own, with like the lion-like design of it. I'm not really sure how it secures to her face and like realistically, but we don't talk about that. Rule of cool, guys. If it looks cool, it's fine. One thing I also really like about Arcane style is how blocky the shapes are. I also studied that a bit on like the bit of her face that's showing and the fabric that were visible. I kind of messed up on the shape of her lips, which is annoying me, but I don't want to point out every inaccuracy because I'm not an Arcane artist and I did not spend hours upon hours to get that perfectly right. And I just don't mind her hair. I just loosely blocked it in because with how long I spent on the mask rendering, no way was I attempting to properly render out the hair. That's a study for another time. I was focusing on the metal, and the metal primarily. These studies were kind of meant to like mash my style with Arcane's, so not going full Arcane, but not going full my style either. So like a funky in-between instead, just so it'd be finding how I can translate Arcane stuff into my work, I guess. Because these studies are for me, essentially. They aren't meant to be perfect, and this is just me getting better at art, essentially. There were some things that were difficult because my art style is a lot more cartoony than Arcane's is, but it's fine. And I'm really proud of how this turned out in the end, and I do think this helped a lot in making me more proficient in the way I render metal. So I count that a success in my books. I'm kind of tempted to do a full body Andessa drawing just for the metal, and just because her like outfits are just so cool and I love the design on them. So that might be happening in the future. Something about just how Andessa in particular is drawn and rendered and styled just latches onto my artist brain and it won't let me go, and it's all I can think about. I'm fine and I'm normal. Maybe I should do like a video in the future like drawing just Arcane characters because I love them. I'm normal. And now, after the nice bit of relaxing rendering and honestly just kind of the warm-up with Andessa, I wanted to challenge myself further. This, because, I mean, if it's a study, it should be difficult and you should learn from it. So I wanted to challenge myself. The shot I chose is actually from Season 1, but I really liked it and I wanted to draw it. For this one, I was wanting to prioritize having a more complex background and the color choices, specifically. I was prepared for this one to be rough, because it steps definitely out of my comfort zone, and I was worried I would be here for a long time, but weirdly enough, the whole process was actually fairly easy and satisfying, and took barely longer than my usual, like, full pieces, which was shocking to say the least. Especially with how happy I am with the end result. Like, I honestly don't know how it did not take longer, I guess, which, you know, that's motivating to me, I guess. I started building out the background and all the smoke with those blues and purples. The structures in the back did give me some difficulty. I'm not amazing at drawing, like, structural things because I'm just very loose and sketchy in my style. And when I try to draw structures like that, it always looks uncomfortably organic. But with a lot of adjustments, I was able to come up with something that was far from perfect, but it was clear what my reference is and the similarities, but I wasn't going to take all the time to do it, like, perfect, because I don't have the patience for that. So more of just, like, getting the idea of that background, if that makes sense. A thing that was an unforeseen struggle, though, was trying to build up the colors and surroundings from the start. When I'm usually just drawing on my own, I usually start with the fairly consistent base colors of a character, and then from there, using blending and overlay layers to unify and manipulate it after I'm done, like, the drawing and rendering part, which kind of unifies the whole color palette and makes it look cool with, like, lighting or whatever. I rarely really know how exactly it's going to turn out in the end, and mostly just wing it. But for this, I was starting knowing exactly what I needed the end result to look like, so I couldn't just go in later and change the colors to match. I was starting with those colors in, like, an almost monochromatic color palette. If that makes any sense, I'm trying to explain it here. It was, like I said, an unforeseen struggle I had with this, but I think it was definitely good for me, though. For this one, I definitely color dropped a lot. The contrast and gradients and color theory were sending me, and I was so baffled how in my reference the colors were just deep and strong, and they were barely showing up in mine. You can see that a lot in, like, her pants, especially. I struggled so much with those to make them look even close to the original, but it's okay. I think what may have been my big problem was I was still using my line art, which Arcane doesn't really use, which was probably making the colors look a lot lighter compared to, like, the harsh lines. It's a small detail, but something about the rendering on the skin of her torso makes it, like, my favorite part in this, like, the part I'm proudest of. I feel like it's definitely the best part of this piece, and I'm very proud of it. The face is off again, but again, weird in between of styles, and I don't really mind it too much. I really want to get better at playing with expressions in my art, so this was a good challenge to try and replicate the emotions on Jinx's face, even if it's not, like, exactly the same. Like, it feel like her face is giving off the same look that Jinx's is in the original. I'm super proud of this, and I think it did make me more confident in trying to do fuller, more complete pieces in the future. And there are more shots from Season 2 I think would be fun to recreate now that I know I can do a sort of background. So those might come in the future as well, because my art lacks backgrounds a lot. It's something I know I've needed to get better at forever. I just don't do it very often, but I am in the future wanting to really improve at those, because I feel like that will definitely level my art up a fair bit. But it takes time and effort, and oftentimes when I sit down to draw, I don't want to use that time and effort, but I'm getting there. Okay, so this last one is definitely, like, my least favorite of these, and is honestly really irking me to look at, but it's fine, it was a study, I will live. I actually did this one second after the Andessa mask, but in the video I wanted to move it to the end because I don't like it very much, but, you know, it's fine. I chose this, like, shot of Vi from the intro, which I thought was really cool, and I really wanted to try and replicate that, like, lighting. That was the big thing I was focusing on here. And also because I really wanted to draw Vi. I love her, okay? Biggest thing that bothers me is her eye is crooked. I hate it. I was kind of distracted when I was working on this. I was watching X-Men movies, if anybody was surprised at all. So I'm just gonna blame it on that. This is what I get for moving straight into the line art and rendering before taking a step back to assess my work, I guess. It's fine, I'm just gonna go cry now, don't mind me. Also, another unforeseen struggle was the smoothness of the original. I guess I hadn't anticipated how that style actively goes against my usual scratchy and textured rendering, and my personal aversion to using the airbrush tool, which is, in hindsight, I should have just sucked it up and used it. It's not the end of the world and would definitely have given me that, like, blurred out look I need, but I was stupid and I didn't want to use the airbrush tool and I wanted to just do my usual rendering thing, which didn't work well, and you could tell it looks weird. Some things I didn't mind in the end was how her not crooked eye turned out, the smudge tattoo under it, the lighting, which is the big thing I was focusing on, so it's fine, and this very specific part of her forehead, and then like parts of her hair. Everything else just kind of makes me cringe, and but those parts are okay in my opinion. I don't know if I've ever drawn lighting like this before, ever in my life on a character. So for a first time, I think it turned out pretty well, and now I kind of want to do more interesting and dynamic lighting like this for my own pieces in the future. The new intro for Arcane Season 2 was super cool, and all the symbolism in it has me reeling. I really enjoyed Season 2, but I don't think the writing really lived up to Season 1, especially the later half of the season, and I'm not saying I'm disappointed. I still loved it, and I will be rewatching it religiously now, but most of the stuff from Season 5 on just didn't really pack the same punch as Season 1, in my opinion. This is just my opinions on the show, and it's fine, you don't have to agree with me. The art and visuals were still dropping per usual, and there are still parts that I adore, and I think were very well done. But just something about it didn't carry the same weight and impact as before, but those are just, like I said, my opinions, and I have a tendency to be very critical and analytical when it comes to writing and things like this, so don't mind me. I love Arcane so much. This show is my everything. It owns my soul. I don't even care. My love for this show will be ripped from my cold, dead hands. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments, though. I love reading about your guys' thoughts on these things, and I read every comment, even if I don't reply. And yeah, with that, this study is done, and I don't have to look at it anymore. I can move on with my life. Huzzah! Anyways, yeah, that's it for this week, everyone. I had a ton of fun getting to pay tribute to the best show known to man, and have been living off the new content as my singular life source lately. So yeah, tell me your favorite of these studies and your thoughts on the new season. If you want, any interaction with my content really truly helps me, and it means a lot. Just because algorithms suck, so just, you know, commenting or liking or just viewing the video to the end, honestly. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back with more art for you all to feast upon soon. Till next week, ciao!